right, guys, so we are hopping into a new series today called Waitlisted. Have you guys ever had to wait on anything in this life? Anything at all? You ever had to wait in a drive-through, wait on break to be here, wait on that awesome new game system you've been waiting on, or something else you've been wanting to do? All of us have waited for things in life, and this series is all about waiting on God. And I don't know if you've had a moment in your life where you've just expected God to come through. All of us probably have had that. We've expected God to do something in the time that you would like Him to do that. But the truth of God's Word says it's God's timing and not ours. And that's hard for us to accept, right? That is so hard for us because we're humans. And we're people of now. And we're people of expectation. But God says to wait on Him. And there's so many amazing things that God teaches us in His Word when we wait on Him. So I'm actually not giving you guys the first message today. I'm actually going to welcome up my good friend, Zach Roseberry. Zach brought a word back. Yeah, let's go. Give it up for Zach, guys. Give it up. Zach brought the word back in November, December, and he brought a great word, and he's excited to share with you guys today, and he's just had it on his heart to share this with you guys, and so I'm excited. So one more time, but real loud, give it up for my boy, Zach Roseberry, guys.
Nobody likes waiting, do they? It's not real fun. Things get real awkward. Y'all start doing weird things whenever we're forced to wait. Might check some of the name. What's up, guys? How's it going? Whoop, whoop. Appreciate you guys hyping it up. Appreciate my vendors over here. What's up, guys? How's it going? Appreciate it, guys. How you guys doing? Everybody good? Yeah? Having a good time? It's my first time back here in MSM for almost a month, probably, between Easter and the time I went to Strikes and Spares, and the 2 weeks before that I was gone on vacation and whatnot, so this is my first time back. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to preach to you guys. Like Luke said, Zach Roseberry, I'm a life group leader for middle school boys, for the Avengers over here. So we're talking about Waitlisted, right? I have a question for you guys, kind of like Luke asked to start off with, but this is less rhetorical. What are some of the things that we absolutely hate waiting for? And this is, Landon, go off. You forgot. Waiting for your past breaks. Weekends. You hate waiting for weekends. 5 days on, 2 days off. They take forever to get here, especially on Mondays. It seems like it's the longest time between now and the weekend. Yeah, true. Anybody else hate waiting for something they hate waiting for? Coffee? You hate waiting for coffee. You can't stand it. You can't wait a little bit of time. They're pretty snappy depending on where you go. Like if you go to, where were we at? I want to say it was Coffee Crossing. We went up there and they were all nice and bam, there it was, and it was pretty convenient, I think. I don't drink coffee, so I wouldn't know. Alex, what about you? Waiting on your food in the microwave. Yes, I can relate to that one. And you can't take it out early, right? There's some things it's like it has to be in there for that amount of time. So annoying. Yeah, what about you? Shipping? Order something on Amazon. It's supposed to be here today. It ain't here yet. Where is it at? You start getting real impatient real fast, right? Like you said it was going to be here today. Why isn't it here today? We don't have a lot of patience for that, do we? Last one, go. They sit here and do this. And you're looking at the clock like, can it be 3 faster, please? I need to go home and do something else besides letting you talk. For sure. Absolutely. So I have some other things up here that I have put on slides of things that I think we all hate waiting for. Dylan, put it up there, the first one for us. Maybe. Not that one. Do the next one. Dates, right? So we talked about weekends for sure. Vacations we plan in the summer sometime, right? You're wanting to get to there, or maybe like spring break, a school break, something like that. You got to save in the calendar. Not save in the calendar. No one has an actual calendar. Anyone actually have a paper calendar anymore that they actually keep? Oh, this is about half of us. Okay, cool. I've never kept one. I don't have the patience for all that. But yeah, so dates in general. It can be a special weekend, a special vacation, a special holiday, Christmas. Like, hello, Christmas, show up, Pastor. Yeah. All right. Well, the next one. Have you seen that icon before? Look familiar? Yeah, that one's real annoying, isn't it? That one's real annoying, and I'll bring it up later, but there's a special point about this one because this one, there is no time on it, right? And there's a date you have saved, and you have that date, you just got to get to that date and you're good. But this one, you don't know how long it's going to be there. And when it pop up, say, man, you're like urgently texting someone, like it's almost an emergency type of thing. Like you got to know the information real quick, and that pops up. You're like, okay. Here we go. It's coming in. Any second now. And then it goes away. Like, oh, come on, are you serious? And it pops back up again. You're like, all right, let's go, get it. It's annoying to see that one, right? Or the next one, Dylan. How about that one?
I hate it.
Yeah. YouTube, skip ad. I put the 3 seconds. Oh, my goodness. Longest 5 seconds of your life, right? I just want to skip the ad. It's so annoying. We don't like waiting, right? No one's a fan of waiting anything. And sometimes waiting can feel like absolutely forever. I'm going to call my Avengers out. No one likes waiting. Feels like forever, especially if we're excited for it, right? Psst. Shh. Yeah, shh. So we're going to watch speaking of waiting for things, we're going to watch a video that has to do with, that shows some kids waiting on things. I think it's pretty funny. I'll go over what it kind of gets into after the video. But let's go ahead and put the video up there, Dylan, and hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see.
Okay, sit in that chair. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have two. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right. I'm gonna go do something and then I'll come back.
It smells yummy. It smells really good.
So it's up to you. You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? I'll be back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna leave and then I'll come back, okay? So you can either eat it right now or you can wait. Either way, okay? Okay. How'd you do? Did you do good? You did? Yeah. You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So did I tell you to give you another one? Okay, now you can have both. You need them.
So that video was pretty funny, right? I like to think so. I thought it was pretty cute. All those kids they were being all antsy, trying to figure out, I don't want to eat it, but I really do want to eat it. And what the silly stuff they do when they're trying not to, they smell. One person kissed the marshmallow. I thought that was kind of funny. It's like, all right, that's cool. So who could have waited for the second marshmallow? Who in here could be like, I could have waited, not a problem. Most everybody, some of you, okay, for those of you who could have waited, think of something maybe that would have been more difficult to wait for if it was put in front of you. Pizza? Landon says pizza. Pizza would have been difficult to deny one piece. Anything but a marshmallow? Yeah, not everyone likes marshmallows. That's fine. What are you going to say? Cake? Cake instead of marshmallows, yes. Ice cream? Ice cream would be hard to deny, especially the right kind of ice cream. It's like, ooh, I don't know. I'll just take it now. That's true. Yeah, that's kind of like a time thing on it, right? So the point of that was, so that test is a video recreation of a test done at Stanford University. It's called the marshmallow test. It's pretty popular. That was a recreation. There's another recreation that they had on here that I could have done. A lot of different recreations, a lot of redoing it. But it's famous because the idea was to see, at a young age, obviously these are little kids, right? The test was to test like self-control and good decision-making skills. Right? So you put the marshmallow in front of them, you say, here's one thing, but you will get double if you wait. And the test was to see whether they waited or not. And then after they did that test, whatever the result was, whether they took the marshmallow or not, they would follow that kid on in life, and they would see whether or not that if they took the marshmallow, that means they had less self-control, less good decision-making skills, and life might be worse, I guess, than that of those who would wait, and they might have better lives. That was the idea. That was the experiment, to see if that was true or not. And that was the general idea. That was what they thought they were studying whenever they did these tests and redid it. But a lot of times when you redo a test, you want to change the variables a little bit and see if maybe you can't find something else about it. So that was understood. That test was testing self-control and good decision-making skills. But someone did a test and found that another variable existed in that test. Like I said, the kids who ate the first marshmallow were thought to have less self-control, poorer decision-making skills. Later tests, though, when they went through there, I know this is all sounding very schooly, but there's a point to it. Just stick with me. Later on, they found out that it had somewhat to do with trust, too. Right? So if the kid was given the marshmallow and the adult said, don't eat it and I'll come back with another marshmallow, one of the variables that decided whether or not that child ate the marshmallow was whether or not they trusted the adult to come back later with another marshmallow, which makes sense, right? You think about it. If you're told something but you don't believe it, you're going to be like, I'm going to get this marshmallow while I can because I don't believe what they're going to say. I don't believe what they're telling me. I don't believe they're going to come back. And that trust thing was something that no one considered when they first did the experiment. And that kind of ties into what we're talking about today. Have you ever been promised something from someone that you had to wait on? Like maybe someone's like, I'm going to take you out to dinner on Friday. It's like, oh, cool, free dinner. Me and whoever are going to go out. And then Friday rolls around, they're like, so I totally forgot, dude. I'm sorry. I'll have to plan it for next week. It's like, all right, cool. And then the next week rolls around, and it's like, oh, dude, I had this other thing planned. I got you next week for sure. Or maybe it's, we didn't make the vacation this year, so we're going on the vacation next year. Things like that, right? So just a little example. What are some things you've been promised and then re-promised and then re-promised after that? I'll be done in just a second. It's fine. I'll be out in the car. Don't worry about it. I'll be out in just a little bit. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, hello? Am I been abandoned? Yeah. Dinner? Dinner will be done in 10 minutes, right? It's a promise. I promise me. And so after a while, I'll go last one. Oof. Did she keep telling you that she was going to give it to you, though? No, she didn't. She didn't try. Oof. Well, when you're first told something, right, when you first told dinner's going to be ready in 10 minutes, or whatever that looks like, it's kind of exciting. It's like, yeah, all right, going to be ready for me, or I'm going to go out to eat, or whatever that looks like. There's suspense, there's anticipation, you're excited for it. But then has that promise ever been delayed, right? One more day, 1 week, one more year, whatever that looks like. Have you ever started to lose hope that it happened at all? In your case, if she kept saying, I'm going to pay you back, don't worry about it, after how long would it take? You'd be like, it's not going to happen. I don't know why I keep telling myself it's going to happen. I don't know. I'm not going to believe. I don't trust you anymore, right? Or maybe if that person who's going to take you out it's been 3 months since they said we're going to take you out on a Friday. It's like, all right, whatever. You know what? I'm over it. I don't trust that you're going to do it anymore. So let's just not even talk about it. Or maybe I don't know. You were promised something when you were younger, a couple years ago, maybe like the newest whatever, and you really wanted it, and they kept saying, I'm going to get it to you, I'm going to get it to you, I'm going to get it to you. Well, 3 years later, you're like, I don't even care about that thing anymore. You never gave it to me, I don't care, I don't trust you, moving on, right? Have we ever done that with God? Has God ever promised us anything, and we were told to wait on it, and we waited and waited and waited, and nothing seemed to be happening? Maybe you pray a prayer about something. Maybe God shows in the Bible that he's going to deliver us through this problem, and then you're in the problem, and you're like, okay, deliver me from the problem's still going on. Like, you promised to get me out of this. How long is it going to take? How long to wait? We're going to talk about someone who received a promise from God and had to wait a long time for it here today. Who here has heard of Abram and Sarai from the Bible? Okay, a couple of them. Who all has heard of Abraham and Sarah? More hands, a couple more hands, right? It's in the Old Testament, it's in the book of Genesis. I hope you all recognize the song. Abraham's famous because it goes, Father Abraham had many sons, and many sons had... Anybody? Somebody? Who all knows that song? Man, okay, I am getting old. Landon, thank you. I appreciate you knowing. It's a classic, I guess you could say, but it's really well known. Abraham, Father Abraham, his name was Abram, and his wife, Sarah or Sarai. They had a name change. I'll get to you why. But as for right now, we're going to refer to them as Abram and Sarai, because that's where they are at in this point in time when we catch up to them. They kind of started Judaism, or being Jewish, and then later on, obviously, that led to being Christianity. So they kind of started that. Right? There was God before, and there were people who followed him, but the covenant that God promised them really kick-started what we consider to be modern Judaism, and then Christianity after that. So it's a pretty big deal, pretty big guy. He's Father Abraham, right? He's the guy that started it all. But before he was given this promise and became Father Abraham, he was just a guy. He was a dude. He was an old dude, but he was just a dude living his life normally, go out to work, come back, say hi to Sarai, how you doing? Normal. Everything's normal, right? But then something changed. So we're going to get into Genesis chapter 12. We're going to start in verse 1 because it's a good place to start. Okay, so the Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you, and I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. All right, so this is a big promise that he gives him, okay? I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram went as the Lord had said, and Lot his son went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. 75 years old. He's already an old dude. He was an old dude. I wasn't lying to you. Right? But God gives him this huge promise. The first thing he says, he's going to make him a great nation, which is pretty cool, right? You're going to go to this place, this area, this country, right? And I'm going to make you a great nation. You're going to be part of this great country. It's like, oh, that's pretty exciting. And the next thing he says is, I'm going to bless and make your name great. You will be remembered forever. Father Abraham, we know it today still. So clearly that promise came through, right? And he's going to bless those who bless him. So if those guys, people who are around him say, man, Abraham's just got it going on, I really just want to bless him, they too will be blessed. And then kind of like a cool superpower-y kind of thing, those who curse him will be cursed, is what God says. So it's like kind of like the rubber and the glue bounces off and it goes back to you kind of thing. It's like you curse me and you're going to get cursed in turn. That's pretty cool, right? It'd be nice to have a little handy thing in the back pocket. So huge promise, right? And then for the world's sake, in him, through his children, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. So when he starts his nation from everywhere on out from there, everything will be blessed because of God. So it's not just big for Abraham, it's big for the world, okay? So the point, God gave Abram a huge promise, and Abram's like, I'm on the way, right? He headed on out. He's on his way. He's ready to go. God never said when, though. He's already 75 years old, and he said, go to this place, and here's some things that are going to happen. And so if I were Abram, I'd be assuming that once I got there, the promise would be fulfilled. I'll be all the blessing, all the good things, woohoo, yada, yada, party time. That's what I would think, too, right? Abram didn't have any kids. 75 years old, Sarai couldn't give birth to children, right? She was physically incapable of having children. Okay, so he had no kids of his own, and there was no future endeavors of having children. That wasn't possible. But God said that through his children, all the nations of the earth were going to be blessed. So it's like, okay, it's a little confusing. Hey, Abram was cool about the whole blessed name, great nation, curse those who curse you, superpower thing. But when it came to the children thing, he's a little confused. Didn't really know what that was about. But he's like, I'm still on the way. Those things sound good too, so I'm going to head on out there and we get it going. Okay, so then that brings us to Genesis chapter 15. We're going to be jumping chapters and hitting different parts of his life. So verse 1 through 4. Sometime later, the Lord spoke to Abram in a vision and said to him, "Do not be afraid, Abram, for I will protect you, and your reward will be great." But Abram replied, "O sovereign Lord, what good are all your blessings when I don't even have a son? Since you've given me no children, Eliezer of Damascus, a servant in my household, will inherit all my wealth. You've given me no descendants of my own, so one of my servants will be my heir." Then the Lord said to him, "No, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own, and who will be your heir." So we can see Abram's doubt. He's like, I don't have children. The servant kid's going to end up with all my fortune and everything you've given me. He's going to end up with him, none of my descendants. And he's still not sure about the children thing. He's waiting for this promise. No one likes waiting. He's waiting for this promise he's been told, but still sounds kind of impossible to him. It's supposed to happen sometime, though. So then verse 5 and 6. Then the Lord took Abram outside and said to him, "Look up into the sky and count the stars if you can. That's how many descendants you will have." And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. Right, so God says, here's an example. See all the stars? Can you count them? You might not be able to. If you can count them, though, or even if you can't, you see them, those are going to be all your children. So basically, God provides an example, a little bit more for Abram to hang on to. It's like, okay, he still doesn't tell him when. He doesn't tell him when it's going to happen, but gives an example of what that's going to look like. So it was a little bit more faith. It's like, it's as if in the marshmallow test, if you didn't believe that they were going to come back with the second marshmallow, if they had a window and showed you the second marshmallow, it's like, okay, I can see the marshmallow now. I don't know if I'm going to get it or when I'm going to get it, but I can at least see it so I know it's there. I have something I'm shooting for. And that was to sustain Abram's faith in what God had said. And then in verse 8, last little bit for here, but Abram replied, "O sovereign Lord, how can I be sure that I will actually possess it?" So even with this example, he's still like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how. Because he doesn't know the how and the when, he's still confused and doesn't really know how to react. Okay? So here's a question for you. Up to this point, Abram's been promised this huge thing. It's supposed to happen. He's 75 years old already. And then his wife can't give birth to children. But God's telling him all these things. What would you be thinking if you were in Abram's situation? And this is an open-ended question. What would you be thinking? Maybe. Landon. Doubtful? That's fair. Anybody else? And that's an honest answer. He is, yeah. And confused. It'd be confusing. It's like, this impossible thing's going to happen. And you want to believe in God. We want to believe in God. But still, in our minds, our human minds, impossible is still impossible. And it takes faith to believe it's going to happen. And because the odds are so stacked against Abram and Sarai having a child, he just believes it to be impossible. His faith is shaken because of it. When you're promised something like this, you might be thinking, after you already get there, it's like, what's taking so long? You're waiting around for it? Or maybe you think, did I hear right? I mean, he did say the whole descendants thing, right? That was for me. That wasn't for somebody else. And even more dangerously, sometimes we think, is there something that I'm supposed to do? Right? Does God need my help with this thing? It would make it about us. Maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe we have to do something. Maybe we have to take a step. And we're going to find out why. It's saying Genesis chapter 16, verses 1 through 6. Yeah, we're going to work it up a little bit. So now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, like we talked about. But she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, "The Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her." And Abram agreed with Sarai's proposal. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar to the Egyptian servant and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. So this is already 10 years after the promise. We can stop right there. Imagine waiting 10 years for a promise. That's a long time. We talked about waiting for 5 seconds for the skip ad. He waited for 10 years, and so did Sarai, because this blessing was put on Sarai as well. And so they're getting restless a little bit. So now the next little bit of it. So Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she became pregnant. When Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress Sarai with contempt. She was just a little snooty about it. She began to treat her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, "This is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt. And the Lord will show who is wrong, you or me." Abram replied, "Look, she's your servant, so deal with her as you see fit." And Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away, right? So they got restless, Abram and Sarai. Been 10 years since they were promised this thing. They begin to wonder, maybe it's something I have to do. Maybe God's waiting on me. Sometimes that happens. Maybe God's waiting on me. And so Sarai came up with this idea to do something that's definitely not biblical, definitely not righteous, but But in her mind, that's what she could come up with. She was thinking so much that it was her problem, because she's the one who can't bear children, right? So she's putting it on her and thinking, I can do something else. I'll give you this other woman, which obviously is a no-go, right? But she does that, and then everything happens, and just like the little kids of the first marshmallow where they took the first marshmallow and ate it, she was trying to take that first marshmallow. She did. She took it. She was like, I'm not waiting any longer. I'm going to do it my way, and this should be right. Let's hope this is right. They didn't fully trust that God would give them another son. That's what she did. They thought they'd speed things along. So she did that after 10 years. You want to speed things along. They were ready for their blessings. But they took things into their own hands and did things their way and their timing and didn't wait for God. And so what did it lead to? It led to disobedience, right? We talked about how it's not biblical, it's not righteous to do that. So disobedience, God said wait. They didn't wait. Led to mistrust, because God asked for trust in this situation. I'm going to bless you, not you're going to help me to bless you. It's I'm going to bless you. And it also led to mistreatment of another, right? They were mean to Hagar. Hagar was a little bit snooty. She kind of was, being a little prideful about it. But at the end of the day, it's the decision that Sarai and Abram made. And then that happens, and now they're blaming her for the consequences, basically. And that's not really fair either. So all these disobedience, mistrust, mistreatment of another person because they took things into their own hands and did it in their own time, which we know is not right. So now we're going to go over to Genesis chapter 17. And we're going to break it down a little bit more. There you go. I will confirm my covenant with you and your descendants after you. From generation to generation, this is the everlasting covenant. I will always be your God and the God of your descendants after you. So here it comes. It's chapter 17, right? So we started in chapter 12 or in 17. It's been a long time since then. And finally, God's starting this out, and he's going to begin to say what he's going to be giving and how he's going to do it. Also, there's a name change coming up here in a second. Let's give, actually, I think it happened in verses 1 through 6. That's not on there. That's fine. We'll move on to 15. So verses 15 through 16. Oh, there's 1 through 2. That's what I was waiting for, Dylan. You beat me to the punch. Okay, so verses 1, chapter 17. When Abram was 99 years old, we started when we were 75, now we're 99. Okay? The Lord appeared to him and said, I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Serve me faithfully and live a blameless life. And I will make a covenant with you by which I will guarantee to give you countless descendants. So now he's ramping up the how he's going to do it, right? Next bit. At this, Abram fell face down on the ground, and God said to him, this is my covenant with you. I will make you the father of a multitude of nations. What's more, I'm changing your name. It will no longer be Abram. Instead, you'll be called Abraham. Name changed. That's it. For you will be the father of many nations, and I will make you extremely fruitful. Your descendants will become many nations, and kings will be among them. And then verse 7. I will confirm my covenant with you and your descendants after you from generation to generation. This is the everlasting covenant. I will always be your God and the God of descendants after you. So like I said, he's bringing it down. Like this is the big resolution. This is the big crescendo. This is the climax, right? He's like, okay, you've waited this long. Here's what I told you I was going to do, and I'm going to start to do it. So then verses 15 and 16. Then God said to Abraham, regarding Sarai, your wife, her name will no longer be Sarai. From now on, her name will be Sarah, and I will bless you and give a son from her, right? So now he's explaining a little bit what he plans on doing, the how that Abraham's been waiting for this whole time. How are you going to do this? They tried it a different way because that's the only way they could think of, because this way is impossible to Abraham and Sarah. This way is not a way. This is not a way that they saw feasible. They didn't trust God could do the impossible, even when he said he was going to, right? So then in the next little bit, if it comes up, Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? And Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing, right? So here it sounds like he's like doubting a little bit, but really what he's doing is he's laughing, right? He said he laughed. He's kind of apologetically saying, this is so bizarre. I don't know. I never could have seen this coming, basically, is what he's telling God. I never would have guessed that you could do this. And then in the last little bit, he talks about Ishmael, right? He says he's going to live in your blessing because Ishmael was the child that Hagar gave with Abraham, the child that wasn't supposed to be, kind of. And he's basically, that's Abraham apologizing, saying, I never would have thought you could have done this. I'm sorry. Okay? So he finally does his plan. And then verses 17 through 20, think we have up here. And God said, yes, I'll bless Ishmael, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his numbers. And he will be the father of 12 rulers. And I will make him into a great nation. All right, so this, I don't want to say mess up. It wasn't a mess up. It was a consequence of Abram and Sarai, or Abraham and Sarah now, taking things in their own hands. Ishmael came about. And Abraham's like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that your plan was. It had been 25 years since you promised me this. At the time, it was 10 years, and we tried to do this thing. It didn't work out. It went against your will. I apologize. And God says, all right then, since I see that you're apologetic and that I can forgive you, I'm going to bless Ishmael too, because Ishmael's Abraham's kid. He wanted him to be blessed as well. So basically, the point of all that story, which I know is a little bit choppy, and I apologize for that. But the point is that God made a promise, okay? But it was so big and so grand that it seemed impossible. It's kind of unbelievable. We can relate to, I think most of us can relate to promises like that sometimes that God gives us. And it's like, okay, if you say so, kind of thing. He didn't reveal his timing, and timing is important to us. That goes back to the examples I gave of waiting, right? The date and the skip ad, there's at least a time limit that you're going to wait for. But the text message bubble thing, you don't have a time. That could be any time. And it's harder to wait for something when you don't know what the time is going to be. So because God didn't reveal his timing to Abram and Sarai, they lost faith. They did things their own way. They ate the first marshmallow from the test. The difference between the marshmallow test, though, and God is that God is different. God forgave Abraham and Sarah for their mistake for having eaten the marshmallow first. Instead, brought the second marshmallow anyway. Because that's the forgiveness, that's the grace that God shows us. So sometimes we take things into our own hands, and we shouldn't have done it that way. We recognize it afterwards, and God still fulfills his original promise, even though we kind of messed it up, or tried to at least. He did this because he's loving and forgiving. Abraham and Sarah saw the error of their ways, sought forgiveness, and so we're still given the blessing and their promise. So, rhetorical question. What have you been waiting on from God? Make it personal. Think about it for a moment. Think about what we've been waiting for. Like I said, maybe it's prayers that we've been praying about things that we're supposed to be delivered from, according to God. It still hasn't happened. There's all kinds of things. There's so many different people in here, so many different lives that are going on. I know the biggest one that I can think of, and it's a big one. It's not very personal, I guess, but it's a promise to all of us. The promise that Jesus is going to return. That's a promise we've been given that we're yet to see fulfilled. And that's been a real long time. That's like, 2021? Over 2,000 years waiting for Jesus to come back? Abraham waited 25 years and they were restless. You think occasionally, maybe because it's been so long that we're like, people say, Jesus is going to come back any day. And we're like, yeah, okay, sure, say so. Kind of losing trust in it because it hasn't happened for so long. It hasn't happened yet. It's the same thing we can lose faith in. That's a less personal one, but I think it's really real when you think about it. How often do we lose faith that Jesus is going to come back? Because losing faith that Jesus is going to come back to us makes our discipline and what we're supposed to be doing prior to Jesus coming back a little bit shaky. The less we believe he's coming back, the less we believe we have to be disciplined in our faith, right? So how long have you been waiting for your promises that you've been given? Is it like Jesus coming back 2,000 years? No, it was 2,000. Kurt might be 2,000 years old. But I don't think anyone's waiting as long for the promise as that. But might be waiting for a long time. Abraham and Sarai waited 25 years for something. Well, I'm not even 25 years old yet. So longer than my lifetime, they've been waiting for something. And they started out when they were 75. Does the size of his promise, though, or the time that it takes to receive that promise mean that we can't trust God? The answer is no. It'd be easy to say yes. It'd be easy to say that thing's impossible, so I don't trust him, or that thing's taking forever, so I don't trust him. But we can, and God gave us stories like that of Abraham to show us that we can wait a really, 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 really long time. And that doesn't mean that he's given up on us. That doesn't mean he's lied. It just means we have to wait, because we've been waitlisted, right? The last scripture I have for you guys, I don't have it. I'm not going to have it on the screen. I don't think they'll be on the screen. It's Proverbs 3:5-6. It's my favorite verse in the whole Bible. Trust in the Lord with all your strength. Lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all ways, and he will direct your path. Lean not on your own understanding. Sarai did that. Her understanding was that she couldn't have children, so there must be some other way. I'm going to do it my way. Acknowledge him in all ways, and he will direct your path. Wait for God. It's hard. That's what we got each other for, right? We got these small groups, these life groups going on. We got this community. Because we're in this time of waiting, we can help each other out to stay accountable, stay disciplined, and keep waiting on what we're supposed to wait for. Don't take things into our own hands. It never comes out good. Okay? We talked about the mistreatment, the mistrust, the misobedience for having done it our way. Ultimately, God has a plan, but we might have to wait for it. Let's pray. God, I thank you for patience. I thank you for the stories you've given us in the Bible, so early in the Bible, in Genesis. I talk about waiting for your promises. Waiting's hard for us. We don't like it, especially in this day of instant gratification. It's hard to wait for anything. But God, you call us to wait for some of these things because some of these things had to be done in your time. You've shown me before that sometimes we might be clever enough to figure out how you want us to go about doing it, but we will never, ever, ever, ever be able to guess in what time and what manner you want us to do it. And that's so important because your timing is everything. Help us to understand that. Help us to be patient. Help us to be strong in the times of waiting. Help us to rely on each other as much as we rely on you to get us through those times. Help us to understand that we know what the promise is. We have it. We have it written down. Don't let the fact that we don't know what time it's going to happen or how distract us from what the promise is. I want to pray for these students and anyone who listens to this sermon. I pray that something sunk down in them, that they understand being waitlisted is hard, but it doesn't mean that we give up faith, that you can't be trusted, God, because you can. You've delivered many, many people from many, many ailments, illnesses, situations, scenarios, circumstances. And there's nothing in the Bible that says you won't do that for us either. Help us be patient. We say and pray. Amen.